going to be presenting the history of King James's Bible. I hope you enjoy. So, it all starts with Queen Elizabeth I, who held the throne. The religion of England was under turmoil under her reign, and she spent her time trying to make Roman Catholicism the religion of England. After Elizabeth died, King James was coronated and Protestantism was reinstated, maintaining a uniform religion. But before I get into that, I will discuss the history of Protestantism. It all starts with King Henry VIII. King Henry VIII was in love with Catherine, his brother's wife, but his brother soon became very sickly and died very soon after his marriage to Catherine. And Henry convinced the church that because the brother was sickly and therefore never consummated his marriage with Catherine, the marriage was invalid and it was okay for Henry to marry Catherine. Soon after, due to Catherine's inability to produce a baby boy, her old age, and Henry's guilt for marrying his brother's wife and cheating the church, plus his new infatuation with Anne Boleyn, all resulted in King Henry VIII creating his own religion, Protestantism. This new religion would let him divorce his wife and not feel guilty. After creating the Great Bible, its successors were inconsistent and the Word of God was becoming unclear. The most common Bible was the Geneva Bible, popular among Puritans but disliked among conservative clergymen, a male priest or male Christian religious leader. The Bishop's Bible was also popular. King James saw the monumental value of undertaking to revise the Bible and took it very seriously. King James approved a list of 54 revisers, although extant records show that only 47 scholars actually participated. They were organized in 6 companies, 2 each working separately at Westminster, Oxford, and Cambridge on sections of the Bible assigned to them. Richard Bancroft, the Archbishop of Canterbury, served as an overseer and established doctrinal conventions for the translators. The new Bible was published in 1611. This was the first time since the 3rd century that the Bible has been remade with royal sponsorship on such a large scale. The last time was when the Greeks translated Hebrew scriptures into what we call today the Old Testament. King James's goal was to translate the Bible to keep it scholarly and nonpartisan. To do this, King James created an elaborate set of rules for the revisers, whose main job was to translate the text into modern English. Translators also consulted Jewish commentaries to try to copy the flow and the rhythm of the Old Testament into their current work, the New Testament. King James's Bible became famous for the beautiful language used and was copied by famous authors throughout history, but we will talk about that in a second. The first 2 printings of the Bible were both printed in 1611, famously called the He and She Bibles. The first Bible misprinted he instead of she in the final clause of Ruth 3:15, where it was misprinted and he went into the city, where it meant to say and she went into the city. The other most famous reprint of the Bible was in 1631, when a printing press misprinted one of the 10 Commandments and instead said, "Thou shalt commit adultery," famously called the Wicked Bible. Although King James's Bible became widespread because of its mainstream English that any person who could read could comprehend, it was actually a type of English that was old and dying out when the Bible was published in 1611. It had sharp staccato sounds, contained repetitive phrases such as "and it come to pass," and put the suffix "eth" on lots of words. This form of English was brought back into the English language as the formal biblical type of writing. It was used by many authors since King James's Bible. The 17th century became a biblical, poetic period of writing, and these writings were very often secular. Although the distinct language King James Bible was copied for centuries to come, this was an accident on King James's part, who chose to write in this fashion to make the Bible sound as the voice of divine wisdom and truth, not to create a biblical, poetic style of writing. Words such as thee, thou, and thine were used in place of you, your, and yours. The suffix eth was replaced with the suffix s. Now that you know a bit about the Bible itself, let's get into how it impacted the English language. Authors began to base their writing off of King James's Bible. Anytime there's a biblical reference in a book, you can pretty much guarantee that it is from King James's Bible. I will discuss 2 books today, the first one being one that you're hopefully all familiar with, Macbeth by William Shakespeare. Shakespeare included lots of biblical imagery and phrases into all of his plays, but I will be focusing on Macbeth. In Act 1, Scene 3, all 3 witches say, "All hail Macbeth, hail to thee," which is a very common greeting. For example, when it is used in Matthew 28:9, Jesus met them saying, "All hail." And in Matthew 26:49, Judas greeted Jesus saying, "Hail, Master." In Act 2, Scene 3, Macbeth creates imagery of the dark night appearing by saying light thickens and the crow, making wing to the rooky wood. Good things of day begin to droop and drowse, while night's black agents to their praise do rouse, which can be compared to Psalms 104:20, which states, Thou makest darkness, and it is night, wherein all the beasts of the forest do creep forth. Both use the idea of scary imagery of animals in relation to the night and use the same style of writing. In Act 3, Scene 5, Hecate says the well-known line, and you all know security is mortal's chiefest enemy. Security is a caveat discussed in Euclid 5:7, where it states, For suddenly shall the wrath of the Lord break forth, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed, using the same idea that security is a temporary feeling. But these are just a few ways out of the long list that Shakespeare incorporated the Bible into his writing. It is not surprising that he did, since after all, King James's Bible was created while Shakespeare was alive and writing plays. In fact, Shakespeare wrote plays for King James, which is why he included witches in the play Macbeth. King James was fascinated with them. To show how King James' Bible impacts the writing of authors later on, I will be using a more modern book, Moby Dick by Herman Melville, to show the lasting impact King James's Bible had on literature. Starting with one of the characters' names, Ishmael. In Genesis, Ishmael was the biblical son of Abraham and his servant. Ishmael was disowned in favor of Isaac, Abraham's son, with his wife Sarah. An angel prophesies to Hagar, the servant, His hand shall be against every man, and every man's hand against him. The name Ishmael has been commonly used to represent an outcast in a story since then, which works in Moby Dick since Ishmael is an outcast on the boat in Nubia fishing. In Chapter 1, a strong wind called the Euroclydon is mentioned in Moby Dick. It is also mentioned in Acts 27:14. In Chapter 6, Melville references Canaan, which is the land promised to Moses and his people by God after fleeing Egypt. This is used to represent New Bedford to the reader in Moby Dick, representing how Ishmael sees New Bedford as a blooming maritime industry with women in fancy dresses and men from all corners of the globe. King James's Bible not only created their own style of writing, but they created a style of writing that has still been used to this very day, showing the lasting effect that one book can have on the world. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Here are my citations. Thank you.